What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Believe in Kentucky on the Believe Network. My name is Vinny Hardy. My guy Cole Park is still out traveling and having a little fun, so he'll be back next episode. But got a big time guest in here filling in today. BBN, you're definitely familiar with him. You've seen him on multiple calls for basketball games. Got Noah Frary, play-by-play broadcaster in here. Noah, man, appreciate you hopping on the podcast today.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Disappointed that Cole's not here. I heard he's a big Red Sox fan. I was looking forward to talking to him about that, but we'll save that for next time.
Yeah, we'll be that much closer to opening day. So,
Exactly.
hey. So, not trying to get all up in your business, but give us a little background on who Noah Frary is, where you from, that whatever you want to tell the listeners and all that.
Yeah, so I originally grew up in upstate New York, moved down to Pensacola, Florida for most of my life. About 20 years, my parents have lived down there. And, it was 4 years ago, back in 2021, I moved to Greenville, South Carolina to start chasing a dream of calling sports on television. And, it's been a slow grind since then. Spent some time in Virginia most recently, and then moved to Kentucky this summer for the opportunity to work around this athletic department and be a part of their television broadcast, and ultimately get to work in some of the meccas of college basketball in this sport, Rupp Arena, Historic Memorial Coliseum. So it's been a fun little ride over these last 6 months after moving here to Lexington.
Yeah, for sure. So I saw on X, I would still say Twitter because I'm old and said
I still do too.
I saw that your recruitment was open and you end up committing to Lexington. So what was the recruiting process like? Who were your final five and all that kind of stuff?
It was a pretty easy decision for me. I had an opportunity to come over here last year to call the Louisville versus Kentucky game on the women's side. And that was my first experience to BBN and being a part of that game. It was the 60th edition of that Battle of the Bluegrass, and getting to watch Kenny Brooks pick up his first ranked win. That was my first experience in a sold out Historic Memorial Coliseum. And I remember telling my wife, we had not been married long at that point, but I said, man, if I ever had a chance to do more games at Kentucky, it would definitely be, something that I had to take advantage of. And that offer came a little bit later in the year. And so we decided to move here to Lexington. My wife took a job in the school system here. She's a public school guidance counselor, and it really all just came together, and it's been a wild ride since then.
Man, so y'all just Kentuckians now and just fitting right in. And basically, sounds like you spoke it into existence. You called a game, said, I'd like to do some more Kentucky. Bam, next thing you know, here y'all are.
Yeah, I mean, it was really neat just to see it all come together. The only thing I will say is I wasn't aware of how many snows we would get here in Kentucky. I know it's a little bit abnormal here early in the winter, but the climate's been a little bit cold. I mean, yesterday it was 70, today it's 25. So Kentucky, you got to get your act together.
Yeah, it's trying to give you upstate New York flashbacks right now.
Exactly.
So have you had people recognizing you in town, noticing your voice, or I've seen you on TV? Are you the guy that was calling Big Blue Madness? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's funny as as we've been here longer and you're around it more, that definitely starts to happen. It's always funny. You'll have the people who kind of know what you do from being told, but then they turn on their television to a random women's basketball game or a men's basketball game, and then the next time you see them, they'll be like, "Wow, I didn't actually realize that's what you were doing." So. That's been fun, just to be around this fan base. It's obviously an incredibly knowledgeable fan base, an incredibly passionate fan base, and it's been really neat just to experience that really in its full weight over these first couple of months of being here in Lexington.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely glad to have you. You're doing volleyball as well, basketball and volleyball. Is that what the primary?
Done a little bit of volleyball, some soccer. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. Spending a lot of time with basketball. I'll be doing some softball in the spring as well. So kind of getting my, feet into and, dipping my toes in the water of most of UK sports so far.
Good stuff. So when you first said I want to do broadcasting, who did you grow up listening to, or who was it that said, hey man, I like that. I would like to try to do that as a kid?
Yeah, funny enough, and I told you this before we went live. I work in sports, and I'm actually not the biggest of sports fans. I grew up in a family that we didn't watch a ton of sports. The only sport that we really watched was Yankees baseball. That's why I wanted to talk
Mm.
Red Sox Yankees with Cole there. But I grew up watching that. So Michael Kay of the Yes Network was someone that I've listened to at nauseum over the years, and I always wanted to be more on the management side of baseball. I thought I was going to be the general
Mm.
manager of the New York Yankees, and
Ooh,
Ryan Cashman, who oddly enough I found out was at one point a Lexington native.
yeah.
Uh, but grew up watching that, and went to college actually for business. Did not plan to get into broadcasting. Started to do some sports information work, and that led to an opportunity to do some broadcasting. And then I just fell in love with it, and I've been doing that for about 6 years now, 4 years full time, and it's been a pretty wild ride from calling very low level college basketball to now calling games inside what I think is one of the best arenas in college athletics in Rupp Arena.
Absolutely, and we're biased, and especially the big game atmosphere when you get North Carolina in there, even though that game didn't go the way we'd hoped, or something like that, or Kansas
Well,
mostly.
and I'll admit too, I was on the call Tuesday night, or Tuesday afternoon rather, when they played Bellarmine this past week, and I was not familiar with BBN's game because you're sitting there, you're thinking Tuesday before Christmas, students aren't here, maybe we'll have 10 or 12,000, and I remember a moment looking up right before we went live on TV, and I looked across from me, that was full. I looked into the right end zone, that was full. Did the same in the left, and then I just turned around and was like, "Is this place packed out?" And it was, and it was at that moment that I realized that this fan base and the love of Kentucky basketball is just different, and you'd be hard pressed to believe to find 20,000 strong at a 1 o'clock game in any other basketball arena in the country 2 days before Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. So on that note, did you kind of expect the game on the court to be that way? You come off a big win against St. John's, and you know we'll take a win any day of the week. But even Goose Givens was like, man, this defense. Bellarmine hung 85 on the Cats, so it to me it played out like, hey, this is the last game before our break. We got a few days off. We just came off a couple big wins finally, so it kind of played out like that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. It was not Kentucky's best defensive performance in that game. As you said, though, a win is a win. And, selfishly, with the non-conference schedule that both the men and the women have played this year, there's been a lot of blowouts. So for me as a broadcaster, it was actually enjoyable to call a game where, at times it was relatively close.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, though, throughout that game, you really did feel like Kentucky was in complete control. I never felt like there was a spot where, Bellarmine was going to overtake the Cats and then go on to win that game inside Rupp Arena. But it definitely was not their, best defensive performance. I thought the offense looked good, but I think you also have to give Bellarmine a ton of credit. They came into, a ruckus environment with, as we just alluded to, 20,000, rooting just for Kentucky. And they did really well. I mean, some of those pieces, you think of their big man Karasinski and what he was able to do to
Yeah.
Kentucky was impressive. So give them a ton of credit. I think Kentucky's going to be just fine. They've proven that they have a good defense, and now it will be, can they perform once we get to SEC play?
Yeah, it's right around the corner. It sure is. So if you had to rank, this is just my little random off the wall question. The people who've seen this team up close and in person the most, is it Mark Pope, the staff, Tom Leach, Goose Givens, yourself, Ravi Moss, and Travis Ford? Is that kind of the right order,
I
maybe?
mean, we're probably getting to that. I mean, obviously, there's some people who have seen it a lot more than I have, but yeah, I've definitely gotten a chance here early on in the season to go to a number of practices, watch this team, through shoot arounds and in these games, and I think the big thing that has stood out to me is there's just been steady improvement, and obviously there's been injuries, and that has been a challenge here early this year, but uh, you saw it against St. John's. This is a team that I think can be really successful this year once all the pieces finally get put together.
Yeah, yeah. And so, being a Yankees fan, you probably know when when things aren't going well, the angst and the frustration gets pretty high. So when Kentucky was 0 for 4 against the marquee teams, Louisville, Michigan State, North Carolina, Gonzaga, and to see them finally get a couple wins, you're kind of getting a whole gamut in year one.
Oh yeah,
of the fan base, right?
Yeah, I mean it. I've told people there was a couple weeks there where things got really loud, and that was kind of my first experience. You go from the highs of preseason and everyone talking about this is the team that's going to bring home a ninth banner to Lexington, and then as you mentioned, they kind of hit a low point of this season against Gonzaga, but then to respond and pick up that big home win against Indiana, and the way they did that in the second half, and then to do it again against St. John's down in a place in Catlanta that I've come to realize Kentucky fans have a fondness to was impressive. So I think the biggest question as you get set to, head into SEC play and obviously, a big test against Alabama right off the bat is which version of these cats is going to show up the rest of the season. And, I think now with guys like Quaintance back and as long as Jalen Lowe's shoulder remains healthy, I tend to believe that the version of Kentucky that we've seen these last couple of games is the one that's going to play out against some of these better teams than the version that we saw that went, 0-4 early on in the season against some good teams.
Yeah. And to lean on the defense a little bit more than maybe we thought, but you hold Indiana to 60, you hold St. John's to 66. That's a lot different than Pope's first team last year, which, so the identity, I think they're kind of finding themselves, like you said, maybe they're not going to hit 23s a night, or even shoot 35 like Pope wants, but kind of gritty and, a little more back alley type squad, which if that's what they got to do, that's what they have to do.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And I even remember back I had just a brief conversation with Cody Feger ahead of the Bellarmine game, and just talking about learning that about yourself and who is this team going to be. And I complimented the coaching staff just on their ability to adjust and do things slightly different than they did them last year. I mean, as you alluded to, a high scoring team last year that had really good 3-point shooters in Jackson Robinson and Kobe Brea, and obviously the impact that Amari Williams had on that team. But this is a much different looking team. But I think the other thing Kentucky fans need to be aware of was this is part of what they wanted from a team that was going to be a little bit more physical, more athletic. And the reason this team looks the way they do is because in the 3 games against Alabama, they were 0-3 last year. And now you have guys who can come in and I think fill some of those needs that they didn't have a season ago. So it's going to look different this year, but I think with the improvements defensively, and as we saw against Bellarmine, they still have the ability to really fill it up offensively. And especially if they get the 3-point shooting going, this could be a team that, really everything is still on the table for as we head into the month of January.
I like that's a good point you mentioned about how Alabama likes to play, either threes or layups, super analytical type team under Oates. And you mentioned the 3 times they played last year, and you couldn't play their style as good as them, essentially. So if you can, go down there and rough them up or change the way the game is played, the Mo Diabate angle is going to be huge. Him going back to Tuscaloosa, that's some physicality that was on their side. Now it's on Kentucky's side, so he's going to get asked about it and his mindset going into it. So you have a little more options on how you want to play a team, like in Alabama, if you can't, match them 3 for 3 or things of that nature.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And if you're Kentucky, you have to hope that Jalen Lowe is a go for that game. Obviously, he missed the Bellarmine game after, Cats fans were afraid that they had lost him for the season against St. John's, and then he comes back and has that second half to remember. So you have to hope he can go. You would tend to expect that Jaden Quaintance would be unleashed a little bit more in that game than we've seen him against Bellarmine and St. John's. So I think there's a lot of exciting pieces here. It's a great way to get things going in SEC play, and I think it's really going to tell us a lot about who the real Kentucky team is when they play that first SEC game.
Yeah. So How does your schedule go once SEC play starts? Where are your assignments at? Are you just in the SEC or just Kentucky? How is that?
Yeah, I'll stay inside the SEC. Some of it's still coming together at this point, but I've got a couple of the women's games that'll go nonlinear. And on the men's side, most of those are linear games moving forward. So I won't touch as many of those, but we'll definitely still be, watching from the couch and inside Rupp Arena as that, team tries to figure things out down the stretch. But it's just going to be exciting, I think, both on the men's and the women's side to get to SEC play. Obviously, the women are playing some really good basketball right now and have a chance to do something special on that side, and I think the men can as well. I legitimately believe that when we look up here in the first week of March, this is going to be a Kentucky team that is not only competing for an SEC championship, but also will be competing for a deep run come the month of March.
Yeah, yeah. So it would all the bumpy, rocky start will be long forgotten.
That's the hope.
And fair or not, this seems like it was months ago, but you were courtside for Colin Chandler's dunk against Nichols, and now Cam Williams 8 threes against Bellarmine. So just those two events alone, what's it like for you from a broadcasting point of view?
Yeah, I mean it's been special to be a part of those moments. Even a couple more that I just think of was Colin Chandler's dunk at Big Blue Madness was a really neat moment. I know for me personally, a neat moment this year was being a part of the Big Blue Madness broadcast. And my first time in Rupp Arena, I'm sitting there, doing this broadcast with Georgia Amore, who was so good for Kentucky last year, Ravi Moss, and then you hear in your headset that John Wall's coming over to talk to you. And I was a college basketball fan. I remember watching, that team, him and Boogie Cousins back in the day. And to get to talk to him on our, my first time in Rupp Arena was pretty special. So, it's been a neat ride. I was actually joking with someone earlier today that I am undefeated calling both Kentucky men and women. I've never called a loss. So 8-0 at this point. So maybe I need to be calling more of these games in the future.
That's what it sounds like to me, man. Just post up whenever they play. No, that's what you gotta do,
exactly.
Man. So yeah, just cool that they I think the picture on X they caught you maybe out of your seat on I think the dunk. So yeah, that's awesome, man. To be able to professionally do your job and still have a little fan moment if you want to call it that. That's awesome.
You can definitely enjoy a big moment. I probably would have been the same way if a guy from Bellarmine had laid it down on Jaden Quaintance on Tuesday night. I'm just legitimately a fan of the sport. It has been neat though, since moving here again. We touched on it early, just to kind of engulf yourself in this fan base and these programs, and just realize again the passion that comes about when it comes to Kentucky athletics. And it's been really neat and fun for me to just continue to learn about the history of these programs, because again, there's so much here. And when you're not in it day to day, you tend to forget, oh, that player went to Kentucky. And so I found myself these last couple months just refamiliarizing myself with a lot of the history, and it really is a special place. And very grateful for the opportunity to be around these programs.
For sure. BigBlueHistory.net. If you haven't been there already, John Scott has it.
It's all. As good as it gets.
Oh man, just whatever you think of, and let me just scroll. There it is. He'll have a link or an article. If y'all not following Noah on Twitter, it's at Noah Frary. Listed in the profile is food lover. So what kind of food are we talking about?
Really anything that's good food. I have, spent these first couple months in Lexington asking everyone from, the guy who is at the gas station all the way up to Tom Leach, the best places to eat. And, I've definitely found a couple. Carson's has become my wife's favorite. So, I'll take there for her birthday. And, I think probably one of my favorites so far in town was actually something I became familiar with, probably 2 years ago. It's a restaurant over, in the northern end of town called Wing King. And my guy Thomas over there, it's a Black-owned business. And I think it's some of the best wings here in Lexington. So if you're looking for some good chicken wings, you'd go there. But funny enough, if you saw my phone right now, I have a guide in my phone of different restaurant recommendations that I have been given, and I'm slowly checking them off. And I haven't missed too many times. I think my last one was Great Bagel over near historic Memorial Coliseum was, a nice pick me up on the way to Rupp Arena one day. So it's the food scene here in Lexington is pretty elite, and I'm looking forward to, trying more of it as we go forward.
Yeah, and like the old step, like Malone's, you can't go wrong with that.
Haven't been there yet.
Dad's, the deli that make the sandwiches.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You mentioned Tom Leach. Look, Tom does not lie about Giuseppe's, that Italian restaurant.
That was one of the ones he told me about.
Ooh. And if you listen to his show, I mean, he plugs them. He does advertising for them. And so I took the wife one time. We were in Lexington, and I had to text him. I was like, "Man, you are not lying." It, is you got the little jazz. The guy Dave Hall, just like a one-man jazz band over there, and it's cool, man. It's cool. So yeah, lots of places to appease the palate for sure, man. So,
well, and I tell people too, I think one of the things that me and my wife have come to appreciate about this town is, we love being around a college town and just the energy that comes from that. But there are also places here that if you just want to go have a nice date night and not be around, 18 to 22-year-olds, you can still do that in this town. So there really is something for everyone here in Lexington. And, as we're, hopefully here for years and years to come, I'm excited to, familiarize myself even more with the town and, find all these unique hole in the wall restaurants, because that's really what I'm looking for when I start to find those unique places. So if you ever hear of any, let me know. But those are the type of places. I am not the biggest of chain guys. So that is kind of where I trend.
Indies is good too if you like soul food. There's one in Louisville, one in Lexington.
Okay.
They got Kool-Aid on the menu. I just tell you, that's one, so.
Well, as long as it's not grape Kool-Aid. I do not drink grape Kool-Aid. My mom force-fed that to me as a kid, and it is the one flavor of Kool-Aid that Noah Frary will never drink again.
Man, she ruined you. I love Kool-Aid. Just too much of a good thing, I guess.
Exactly.
Man, last thing, I've never met this lady in person, been friends with her on Facebook because in similar Kentucky groups and stuff like that. But your stylist, Darlene, I've been friends with her for a long time. Saw her post. I'm like, is that Noah? Yeah. Oh, she's cutting Noah's hair. Okay. And then I saw you on X shouting her out. So she's good people, man. So
yeah, I mean, it was my first NIL deal here in Lexington. They started cutting my hair, and it's been good. Darlene's great, and definitely enjoy sitting in her chair. And we talk plenty of Kentucky basketball. She always wants to talk Cats, and you talk about learning the history of these programs. She's one of those people I go to. Sometimes it's worth the $20 to sit in her chair just to hear about all the eras, because she's seen them all. So I definitely have come to appreciate just, there's so many people in this town that are very friendly. They love talking about the Cats, and you can get into some really good conversations. And, as someone who gets paid to talk for a living, clearly I don't mind talking.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. So, man, you're doing it right. You're hitting up the locals, getting the history, learning, players that's already come through from years ago, getting to talk to John Wall, doing date nights with the wife. Haven't been married long, but keep up the date nights. Whether if kids come or not, the date nights when you can are good. Your schedule, her schedule, make time for the date nights. So, man, you checking out the boxes, Noah, man. Good stuff.
We're trying. It's it's a journey. We're all on it, and just enjoying the ride along the way.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to hop on a podcast from a dude you had no idea who it was, and you're still kind enough to take time out of your day to hop on Believe in Kentucky. We'll get you on again when your schedule allows with Cole. Get some Yankees, Red Sox, and some baseball talk in, because we get a little random sometimes with that, in addition to talking Cats. But can't thank you enough. Mentioned again, tell people where they can follow you. I mentioned it, but you plug yourself any kind of way you like to before we wrap it up, man.
Yeah, head over to X at Noah Frary, at Calls by Noah on Instagram, and look forward to interacting with Big Blue Nation in the years ahead. Appreciate you letting me come on, and look forward to doing it again in the future.
Absolutely. So BBN from Noah Frary, this is Vinny Hardy. Cole Park will be back next time. It's been another episode of Believe in Kentucky on the Believe Network. Go Cats. Beat Bama Saturday, and we'll see everybody next time.